Hey, thanks for tuning into this video. Today we're at Legacy Shooting Sports on 1475 West, 90th South in West Jordan. Fantastic gun store and range. They have classes too, classroom and everything. So 1475 West, 90th South. They're open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Hey, I got that right.
Awesome. You did well.
That's awesome. All right. So, and we're very happy that Legacy is a sponsor of Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. We're here today at the range to try out some of the myths regarding the .45 Colt that Alec Baldwin very tragically used to kill and injure two people on the set of Rust.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We got a lot of things that we're going to be showing you, how the firearm functions, a little differences between a blank cartridge and a live cartridge, and maybe answer some of the questions that you've got in the back of your mind. How did this happen on a movie set with a person saying, I didn't pull the trigger?
We are going to be using the exact type of firearm that was used by Alec Baldwin, the .45 Colt. And Bill, we're going to find out if you can fire that gun without pressing the trigger.
Exactly.
We're going to find out, so stay tuned.
Come on inside.
Hey, welcome to our video today. I'm Clark Aposhan, chairman of the Utah Shooting Sports Council and host of Gun Radio Utah, No Apologies. With me is Bill Pedersen, director of Utah Shooting Sports Council and co-host of Gun Radio Utah, No Apologies. We're here today to discuss what happened on the set of Rust. Yeah, and basically firearm safety on movie sets. And I've been on a lot of movie sets, both high budget and low budget for TV and movies. Yeah. And I think this was kind of a low budget film, Rust, that was masquerading as a high budget film. But anyway, we're here to discuss safety on movie sets, specifically as it relates to the gun and the type of gun that Alec Baldwin, I said his name, used on that movie set, which tragically resulted in a death and an injury.
Well, and also to just displace some of the misnomers that are going around about this type of firearm and how it was used and maybe what happened and maybe what doesn't happen with this type of a firearm as well also.
Right, a lot of people don't understand how a single action, that's the type of firearm that was used, a single action revolver, and how it differs from the much more common double action revolvers that folks are used to seeing in, on TV and movies and stuff like that. So if you join us over here, we can show you what we're talking about. Okay, so the type of firearm that was reported to have been used was a single action .45 Colt, sometimes called a .45 long Colt, but it basically means it's a .45 caliber revolver. Now, a revolver has a cylinder in which has individual chambers, in this case 6 individual chambers, and if you come right here, close right up, you can actually see that's one chamber, and as we turn it, 2, and we would just continue turning it, and you can see that these chambers are empty, okay? You have to check a single action revolver like that. This is called a loading gate, and essentially you open the loading gate, you have the hammer back at what we call kind of half cock, and you just turn that and you have to turn it. Now, if you're like Bill and I, we're kind of OCD and we turn it like 12 times or 18 times just to make sure that the condition of the weapon. Now, if we want it to be loaded, then of course we can do that. As opposed to a revolver. Now I'm going to have to do this kind of backwards here for that. But a double action revolver like this one, you can simply hit the cylinder release. On a Smith & Wesson, you're going to move it forward, and you pop that out from the right to the left. And you can now view all of the chambers within the cylinder. And then as an added feature, I just hit the extractor rod just to make sure. And that way you can just tell at a glance, just by looking like that, the condition of the revolver. Now, another thing about, let's say, a double action revolver. They call it a double action because the trigger does 2 things. So we're on the range and we've got our eye and our ear protection on. I actually do have my ear protection on, even though it doesn't look really big. But the trigger will do 2 things. One, if I pull the hammer all the way back and lock it, the trigger is now in what we call single action mode. and I can just press the trigger. And it takes about, what, 3 pounds of pressure on a single action? I'd say something around there. Certainly not 5 pounds, to just release the hammer. Or if I leave the hammer in its down position, okay, I can then apply pressure to the trigger like this and press, and it'll pull the hammer back and release it. Pull it back and release it, hence the double action. All right, now if we turn to the single action revolver, it operates differently, okay? Now, because I'm a little OCD, I'm just gonna check again, because that's what we do. Anyway, if the hammer is down all the way, as opposed to a double action, and I press the trigger, nothing happens. And you can see I'm pressing the trigger, nothing is happening. But if I pull the hammer back, 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, essentially, and press the trigger, now, even though I know there's nothing in it, we're still gonna hold it correctly and place it downrange and press. Then it will fire, okay? The only way to get this weapon to fire is to pull the hammer back again. I can get that a little slippery. Pull that back and press the trigger. But just by pressing the trigger, it doesn't happen. Now, when the hammer is fully rearward, I can hammer that, I can hit this. It doesn't accidentally go forward. One other point to point out is this. If you pull the hammer back, and let's say you just pull it back almost enough to lock, but not quite enough to lock, so you pull it all the way back, it locks. But let's say I pull it back almost all the way, and then I let go. You see what happens? The hammer with the firing pin, I don't know if you can see here, let's pull this back and let's show the firing pin on there. Where's my little pointer? Here it is. You can actually see the firing pin is attached right to the hammer, as opposed to a lot of the newer double action revolvers that doesn't. But that is what makes contact with the primer of the cartridge that's in the chamber. All right, so if I pull that back and then just let go, it doesn't go all the way forward. That's a safety feature that's been built into certainly all the reproduction single action firearms, or at least all the ones that I know about. Anyway, so that's how that looks. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to load, how to unload, and how to check to see if a round is in the chamber. Thank you. Hey, we're back again. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to show you. Well, Bill,
let's show as a prop master or a gun master. Set master. What do they call
a gun master is great. Weapon handler.
Weapons handler.
Or firearm guy. I don't know.
Because you've done this on movie sets.
Yeah.
How you properly load the firearm and get it ready for the scene.
Okay. All right. So now, what I'd like to do is show you, because I wouldn't be loading it with actual live ammunition.
Right.
So in fact, Bill, can I show you the difference between the blanks?
Let's see the difference between a blank and an actual live round, or something that you'd use for.
Okay. So what we've got here is I've got some Fiocchi 45 blanks. Now these are 45 Colt blanks, and if you notice, you can see on them that they're actually, when you see an actual 45 Colt shell, it's a lot longer. But this one, and what they've done is they've taken that brass and they've cracked it, kind of like a dumpling, if you will.
Okay.
Like a dump. Anyway, and now this does not have an actual projectile or a bullet in it. All it has is the brass case. It has a primer, which is your ignition source. And that's what the firing pin actually hits. And then there's gunpowder inside here. And when it discharges, that crimp will open up and expel a bunch of hot gases, which are still dangerous, but at distance they aren't going to kill anybody. Okay, now, combine that with an actual loaded round of 45 Colt, you can see a huge difference between the blank and the actual live loaded round. This is a live loaded round. It has a brass case, it has the primer, it has gunpowder inside, and it has the projectile. Okay, so from the back, however, they look very similar, and I'll show you when we put them into the chamber. Okay, very similar. Bill pointed out that the actual primer on the blank is actually noticeably smaller, but
You know what? This is really
you're not going to notice that difference. All right. So, and there's one other type of blank that are commonly used that we have used. In fact, I pulled this out of a bottle I had on for a movie set. This is a 38 special blank, or a paper wad blank. They actually take the shell. It's a standard 38 special brass case, and they put gunpowder in it, and then they put, I don't know if you can see that, a little paper wad, a cardboard or paper wad inside there to create the pressure and to keep the gunpowder from falling out. This is also not going to hurt anybody at distance, but that paper wad does come out at velocity. So it can be, as opposed to a standard 38 special round, which is, they can come in brown or nickel plated like this, but you can actually see the projection. Okay, so let's load and see what it takes to load a revolver like this. So just because I'm a little OCD, I'm just going to check. Then I'm going to grab 6 45 Colt cartridges, just like they would have used in the movie set, except they aren't supposed to have loaded rounds anywhere else. All right, we have the weapon pointed downrange, and I insert one and I turn. Insert one and turn until I have filled up all of the chambers. Sticking there, okay. Once that's loaded, you turn that. Now, this gun is at what they call half cock, or the position it used for loading the weapon. Even if I were to press the trigger now, that hammer's not gonna do anything. It can only engage when it's at full. So let's take a look what a fully loaded one looks like. If I were to check this, it's gonna be just like that, and it's kind of sticking there a little bit, but that's what they look like. Now, to unload this weapon, it's a little bit more difficult than on a double action revolver. I have to align that chamber with the loading gate and hit your extraction rod. And the extraction rod is a little thing right there, just mechanical, and it just pushes that little rod right up through and pushes the round out. So, and sometimes they fall on the floor, and that's okay. And you know what? We're just going to let them go. Some of them will catch. All right. Trying to do this for the video is a little biomechanically different. Now, I've got them all unloaded, but I'm still going to check. Okay, now let's put a blank in. The blank fits in the exact same way, and you can see that there's a blank in there. But now let's put an actual live round in there too. And spin that up, empty, come in. That's the actual blank. The only reason I know that is because the primer is a little smaller, and there's your loaded one. All right, so that's how you inspect a single action revolver to find out if it's loaded, where the cartridges are, and that's how you unload one as well. On the movie set, I would have handed this to the actor or the talent in the condition that they were supposed to have. If they were to touch it and mess around with it and open the loading gate up that was not in the scene, in the script, I probably would have gone up, blown my whistle, gone up, grabbed the gun again, and inspected it. And then I would have handed it back to them and said, don't mess with it. However, what weapon handler, especially a new weapon handler like was on the set of Rust, is going to do that with the actual production, the person that's completely in charge, and he's also an actor. So I could see that them being a little apprehensive of, trying to correct an actor on the set. So especially when they're the one writing the checks for your employment. All right, so anyways, that is how that is done. Bill, anything else? Should we fire one?
Let's fire one.
Oh, let's fire one.
Let's show how to fire one. So.
All right. You know what? Since I've been in front of the camera so much, Bill Pedersen is now going to fire the 45 Colt revolver with an actual live round, and let's see what that's like. On. Okay, so Bill, what you've got the 45 Colt. Show us something interesting about the hammer, though, and we're going to do a little test on that.
Okay, this is kind of an interesting round. Just so you can see, the cylinder is empty, so we have no live rounds, but I'm going to still point this in a safe direction.
Okay.
But if you just kind of pull back the hammer just part way
Without pressing the trigger?
without pressing the trigger,
Okay.
that hammer will fly.
And that goes all the way.
Now, there is a locking spot. You can kind of see it here.
Okay, now there.
Now
So if you
it's
pull it
locked,
back,
and I can pull the trigger, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Until I release it.
so what you're saying is, let's find out if just that small movement backwards
If that
of the
small
hammer,
movement
if that's enough.
actually causes an issue.
And I'll tell you what, I'll give you my prediction. I think it's enough to set off a blank.
I believe it
So
will,
you're going to use
too.
a blank on this
So
one?
we're going to use a blank round just so we can control the firearm a little better.
Okay, now you're going to have to turn that cylinder
Yep.
with the loading gate open, or you can do it that way too. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I think
Yeah,
I'm going to
never
do
mind.
it with the...
You don't. You just have to put it back to that half cock, and the
Yeah,
cylinder will
let
turn.
me see if I can get it to... We just need
I
to
do it with the loading gate open.
find the round. Okay, there it is.
Okay, so you're putting it top dead center in line with the barrel now, right?
Yep, should
Okay.
be top dead center.
Okay.
Let me just double check that. Yep, top dead center.
Okay, so now you're going to pull the hammer back part way and let it fly. Is that right?
I just rotated it. Oh, nope, it is top dead center now.
Okay. So we've got our eyes and ears on.
Yep,
You're pointed in a safe direction.
finger is
And you're
off
not
the
going to press the
trigger.
trigger. Is that right?
Yep.
All right.
No fire.
Keep trying.
No fire. No fire.
Okay, so what you're saying is that just pulling it back halfway, even though it does go all the way forward,
Yep.
is not
Now,
enough to fire
just
that
so you
round.
see this, I'm going to rotate the cylinder.
And there's that.
There's
and that
the primer.
proves that it was
or
under
the
under there.
blank
Okay.
that was right underneath the
Got a
firing
little blurred
hammer.
there for a sec, but yeah. Okay,
Okay.
excellent. All right, so Bill, we all want to see you fire the 45 Colt. the
I do
big boy,
too.
The actual big boy.
So,
And you know what? And how about firing a blank as well?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's start with the blank first then.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Okay.
recoil on that.
Now, you were pointed right at the target, right?
Yep, pointed right at the target.
And I think you'll know there is no holes or anything in that target. That looks pretty pristine.
Yeah.
All right, now you're going with the big boy?
Let's empty this out.
Okay. Oh, let's show them what the blank looks like after it's been fired.
So that's,
Okay,
so if
now
you
remember it had that crimp on it, and now no crimp. It's just been
So this
opened
is
right
kind
up.
of a before. Get a look at that, and that's an after.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now let's play at the good stuff.
The good stuff.
Okay, so this is just long Colt 45. I'm not even sure what grain it is. It's pretty light.
Well, you can look on that box. You know what? Let's find out. What is that? What do the grains say on that? I'll bet it's 250 grains.
Really?
I'll bet it is. I don't know. Let's see. 250 grain.
Dang, you're good. Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go. This is a full bore. All right.
Little recoil out of that one.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the target. I'm going to zoom in on the target. Are you going to bring it
I'll
in?
just bring it in. You'll notice that the target, that bullet kind of ripped the paper.
Well, you know, I've noticed a lot of that's the air pressure in it, as far as I understand. It's the air pressure in front of that. As you get out farther, it doesn't do that. But yeah, so got him right in the spine and the lungs, looks like. So, yeah. All right, so Bill, your thoughts on Alec Baldwin? Does his story hold up?
I just have a hard time buying in on his story, and as of the news yesterday, he is now saying that he did not pull the trigger. And what we want to show our viewers, our listeners on this is that in order for a firearm to go off, first off, he had his finger on the trigger, but secondly, you notice on this single action firearm, he had to mechanically pull the hammer back with his thumb, engage it into a locking position so that when he pulled the trigger, it would fire. So if we look at this, there's really three steps that took place. One, the gun was loaded with a live round, which shouldn't have been on a set. Two, the hammer was mechanically pulled back by an individual, typically the shooter. And three, his finger was on the trigger and pulled the trigger. So I'm going to say there was 4 steps that took place in this incident, this tragic incident.
All right, so I'm going to do this. Now we're going to go to kind of selfie mode here. So I thought we could. How do we go to selfie mode, Bill?
Let's just do this here.
All right, so here we
go.
So I think this will answer any questions. If you want more stuff on video, let us know, and we're happy to do this. And this will be this should go on the Gun Radio Utah Facebook page at least, and YouTube,
and a few others.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us today.
Yep. Have a great day.